Fellow Stoic, something huge is happening right now. The power to never be controlled by anger again is within your reach. Are you ready to claim it? Anger has been called a fire, quick to ignite and devastating in its destruction. Perhaps you felt its scorching heat. Maybe it's cost you relationships, moments of peace, or even your health. You're not alone, and let me reassure you, the frustration you feel when anger overtakes you is valid. It feels like a thief, robbing you of clarity and calm. But here's the truth. The power to control your anger, to remain unbothered by what others say or do, is entirely within your grasp. For over 2,000 years, Stoicism has taught individuals how to master their emotions, turning moments of provocation into opportunities for strength and wisdom. This video will reveal how anger, when unchecked, is your greatest weakness, but when understood and tamed, it becomes the foundation of unshakable inner peace. Stay with me as we uncover the #1 Stoic technique to stay calm in heated moments, how to reframe situations that make your blood boil, and the secret to building emotional resilience so solid that even your enemies admire your composure. If this message already resonates with you, like this video and comment yes. Together, we'll transform how you think about anger. And by the end, you'll see anger for what it truly is, a chain you no longer need to wear. Ready to begin? The trap of anger. Anger is a cunning trap, and like all great traps, it disguises itself as something else, something useful, something empowering. It seduces you with a rush of adrenaline, convincing you that your outburst will set things right, that raising your voice or throwing that sharp comment will restore balance. But beneath that fleeting surge of righteousness lies its true nature, destruction. Anger burns everything it touches, yet somehow it convinces you to hold it closer. Seneca, who studied anger so deeply that he wrote an entire essay on it, compared it to acid. Anger, an acid that eats its container. And that is the irony. It eats away at you, not your so-called enemies. It strips you of your calm, your clarity, and your dignity, leaving you weaker and more vulnerable than before. Think about your own life. How many moments have you lost to anger? Maybe it was a fight with a loved one that spiraled out of control, leaving a rift that still hasn't healed. Or perhaps it was a passing insult, a careless comment from a colleague or stranger that festered in your mind for hours, days, even weeks. What did those moments give you? Did they bring you peace? Did they solve the issue? Or did they leave you drained, regretful, and perhaps even ashamed? The Stoics were clear on this. Anger does not strengthen us. It weakens us. It drives impulsive actions and clouds reason, taking the reins of your mind and steering you into chaos. Marcus Aurelius, a man who held the power of an empire yet sought to master himself above all, wrote, "How much more harmful are the consequences of anger than the circumstances that aroused it in the first place?" And he was right. The aftermath of anger often leaves a longer shadow than the incident itself. The heated words you said in a moment of fury are not easily forgotten. The relationships damaged by your outbursts can take years to mend, if they ever recover. Anger promises release but delivers regret. It tells you, if you lash out, they'll understand your pain. But what does the lash really accomplish? It doesn't make them understand. It makes them defensive. It creates division, and it perpetuates conflict. Imagine you're holding a hot coal, ready to throw it at someone who has wronged you. What happens? The coal burns your hand first. This is how anger works. It harms you long before it touches anyone else. Epictetus, born into slavery and yet one of the freest minds to have ever lived, knew this better than most. He taught that our anger doesn't arise from what people do to us, but from the judgments we place on those actions. It is not he who reviles or strikes you who insults you, he said, but your opinion that these things are insulting. Think about that. It's not the insult itself that hurts you. It's the meaning you assign to it. You're not at the mercy of their words. You're at the mercy of your own interpretation of their words. This is why the Stoics viewed anger as a declaration of defeat. When anger controls you, you've already surrendered your power. You've handed the keys of your mind to someone else. Every time you explode in fury, you're allowing someone or something outside of you to dictate your emotional state. And for what? For a fleeting sense of superiority? For the illusion of control? Anger is not control. Anger is enslavement. To truly be in control is to remain calm, no matter what chaos swirls around you. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself of this daily. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Strength isn't in shouting louder. It's in refusing to let anyone provoke you to shout at all. Yet this is not an easy lesson to learn. Anger is deeply human, and it often feels justified. When someone cuts you off in traffic or speaks to you with disrespect, your body reacts before your mind has a chance to catch up. Your heart races, your fists clench, and that familiar surge of adrenaline screams at you to do something. It's in these moments that the trap springs shut, and unless you trained yourself to resist it, you're caught. But here's the good news. The trap only holds you as long as you stay unaware. Once you see it for what it is, you can step out of it. The antidote to anger is awareness. The next time you feel that heat rising in your chest, pause. Don't act. Don't speak. Don't even dwell on the thoughts forming in your mind. Just pause. Take a deep breath and ask yourself one simple question. Is this worth my peace? 9 times out of 10, you'll realize it isn't. The driver who cut you off is already gone. The person who insulted you has moved on to their next conversation. Meanwhile, you're still sitting there, stewing in anger, letting them live rent-free in your mind. Why give them that power? This pause is your first step to freedom. It might feel small, even insignificant, but it's profound. In that brief moment, you reclaim control. You remind yourself that your peace is not something to be traded lightly. Every time you pause instead of reacting, you weaken anger's hold on you. Over time, those pauses become longer, and eventually, they become second nature. You will find yourself no longer baited by the petty provocations that once derailed your day. But let's be clear, escaping anger's trap isn't about becoming passive or indifferent. It's about channeling your energy into something far more powerful, calm action. When you act from a place of composure, your decisions are smarter, your words are more measured, and your impact is greater. The Stoics didn't teach us to suppress our emotions. They taught us to master them. To let anger go not because it's easy, but because holding on to it is far harder. Consider this, every time you choose calm over chaos, you're not just changing the moment, you're reshaping yourself. You're training your mind to be stronger, more resilient, and less reactive. You're aligning yourself with what the Stoics called a rete, the excellence of character that leads to a life well lived. Anger is the opposite of excellence. It's a refusal to engage with reason, a rejection of wisdom. And what is Stoicism, if not the relentless pursuit of wisdom? So, the next time anger knocks at your door, remember that it's not your ally, it's your enemy, disguised as a friend. Don't invite it in. Instead, pause, breathe, and reclaim your power. Comment trap if you're ready to take control of your emotions and break free from anger's snare. Because the truth is, anger only wins if you let it. The choice is yours. Will you let anger define you, or will you rise above it? The journey to mastering anger starts here, and what comes next will forever change the way you see your triggers. Stay with me. You're closer than you think to becoming unshakable. Reframing your triggers. Here's a truth that can be both liberating and uncomfortable. The things that make you angry don't come from the outside world. They come from you. At first, this idea can feel like a slap in the face. After all, it's so much easier to point fingers. They insulted me. They ignored me. They disrespected me. But what if you pause for a moment and ask yourself, why do I feel insulted? Why do I take their words or actions so personally? This is the heart of reframing your triggers. The realization that the things we believe provoke us are often just mirrors, reflecting something about our own expectations, values, and judgments. As Epictetus put it so simply and yet so profoundly, men are disturbed not by the things that happen, but by their opinions about those things. Let's take a scenario almost everyone has faced. You're driving to work, already feeling the weight of the day ahead, when another driver cuts you off. In that moment, it's as if your entire sense of justice is called into question. Your pulse quickens, your grip on the wheel tightens, and the thought flashes through your mind, how dare they? But pause here for a moment. Why is it that this particular act provokes you so much? It wasn't personal. The other driver doesn't even know you. Yet in that moment, you interpret their action as a personal slight, as an offense against your dignity or your right to the road. The Stoics would say this reaction isn't caused by the event itself, but by the meaning you've attached to it. You see it as disrespectful, and that belief fuels your anger. But what if you chose to see it differently? What if, instead of assuming malice, you reframed it? What if you thought, maybe they are rushing to an emergency, maybe they are having a terrible day, maybe they simply made a mistake, the way I've made mistakes before. Suddenly, the heat of your anger begins to fade. You've taken the same event, the same trigger, and transformed it into an opportunity for understanding and compassion. Reframing doesn't mean excusing bad behavior or pretending that wrongs don't exist. It's not about denying reality. It's about reshaping your perception of it. Because at the end of the day, the way you interpret events has far more power over your emotions than the events themselves. Marcus Aurelius, who ruled an empire and dealt with countless provocations daily, wrote, "If you are pained by an external thing, it is not this thing that disturbs you, but your judgment about it. And it is in your power to wipe out this judgment now." Think about that for a moment. Every insult, every inconvenience, every perceived slight, they are all filtered through your mind. And if you can change the filter, you can change how you feel. This isn't just philosophy, it's a skill, one you can develop with practice. Start by examining the stories you tell yourself about your triggers. For example, imagine a colleague interrupts you during a meeting. Your immediate reaction might be frustration or even humiliation. You might think, they don't respect me. They are trying to undermine me. But what if you question that story? What if you considered, maybe they were overly excited to share their idea. Maybe they didn't realize they were interrupting. Or maybe they are dealing with their own insecurities and feel the need to assert themselves. By shifting your perspective, you neutralize the emotional charge of the situation. You take control of your narrative instead of letting your narrative control you. The beauty of reframing is that it empowers you. It puts you back in the driver's seat of your emotions. You're no longer at the mercy of every rude comment or inconsiderate action because you understand that their power lies in your interpretation, not in the actions themselves. This isn't always easy. Our initial reactions, the surge of anger, the sting of hurt, can feel automatic, almost instinctual. But with practice, you can train yourself to pause, reflect, and reframe. It's like building a muscle. At first, it takes effort, but over time, it becomes second nature. Consider the story of the Stoic philosopher Cleanthes. When someone mocked him for his slow, deliberate speech, Cleanthes didn't lash out. Instead, he replied, "Better to be slow and deliberate than rash and thoughtless." He didn't let the insult dictate his response. Instead, he reframed it as an opportunity to demonstrate his values, patience and composure. And in doing so, he turned what could have been a moment of conflict into a moment of strength. Reframing your triggers doesn't just protect your peace. It transforms your challenges into opportunities for growth. Every time you succeed in reframing a situation, you're not just avoiding anger. You're cultivating patience, understanding, and resilience. Imagine what your life could look like if you approached every frustration this way. Instead of being rattled by setbacks or provoked by criticism, you'd see them as chances to practice your Stoic virtues. The rude remark from a stranger becomes an exercise in humility. The disagreement with a partner becomes a lesson in communication. The long line at the grocery store becomes an opportunity to practice patience. The real power of reframing lies in its ability to connect you to your greater Stoic purpose. The Stoics believed that we are rational beings, capable of rising above our base instincts and living in harmony with nature and reason. To reframe your triggers is to step into that higher version of yourself. It's to say, I will not let petty provocations define me. I will not be a slave to my emotions. I will choose my response, guided by wisdom and reason. This is not just about managing anger. It's about mastering yourself. When you reframe a trigger, you're not just changing how you see the situation, you're changing how you see yourself. You're affirming that you are not weak, that you are not reactive, that you are not controlled by the actions of others. You're declaring that you have the strength to remain calm, the wisdom to see clearly, and the courage to act with integrity. And every time you do this, you grow stronger. You become the kind of person who is not easily shaken, the kind of person who inspires respect and admiration, not because you demand it, but because you embody it. The next time you're faced with a trigger, remember this. The event itself is neutral. The power lies in your perception. You can choose to see it as an attack, or you can choose to see it as an opportunity. You can let it disturb your peace, or you can let it refine your character. The choice is yours. Comment reframe if you're ready to master this mental shift. Because what comes next is not just a skill, it's a way of life. Stay with me, and you'll discover how the simple act of pausing can transform your entire relationship with anger. You're already on the path to becoming unshakable. Let's keep going. Imagine never losing control again. Imagine facing insults, provocations, or even betrayal with calm clarity. This isn't just possible, it's achievable. We've covered the foundation, but there's more to unlock. Stay with me as we uncover the Stoic technique that could change how you react forever. If you're finding value in this, don't forget to subscribe, share this video with someone who needs it, and click the super thanks button to support. Let's dive deeper. The Stoic pause, mastering your reaction. Sometimes the simplest tools are the most profound. One of the greatest acts of power and self-mastery is not a grand gesture, but something almost invisible, the pause. In those fleeting moments between an event and your reaction lies an untapped reservoir of strength. When you pause, you reclaim your freedom. You remind yourself that your actions are not dictated by the world around you, but by the deliberate choices of your mind. This is not a natural instinct. Our emotions, left unchecked, will always seek to react first and think later. But the Stoics knew that true strength is forged in those moments of stillness, where you step back, breathe, and choose to respond with intention rather than impulse. Picture this. Someone insults you, perhaps in front of others, and the sting of their words ignites a fire in your chest. Without the pause, you might lash out, hurling words that you can't take back, escalating the situation into an argument or a confrontation that leaves both of you bruised. But when you pause, something incredible happens. Instead of reacting, you breathe, and in that breath, you have time to think. Does their opinion define me? Does it truly harm me? Or am I simply letting their words stir my pride? Most of the time, you'll realize the answer is no. Their opinion, their insult, is a fleeting thing. It holds no power except the power you choose to give it. The pause is not just a moment of silence. It is a reclaiming of control. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the Roman Empire, often reminded himself of this principle. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment. Think about how revolutionary this idea is. Nothing outside of you has the power to disturb your peace unless you permit it. The pause is your way of exercising that power. It's a reminder that no matter what happens, you are not a slave to your circumstances. You are the master of your mind. But let's be honest, the pause is not easy. In the heat of the moment, when emotions are surging and adrenaline is pumping, it feels unnatural to stop. You might feel an almost primal urge to defend yourself, to prove your worth, or to assert your dominance. That's why the pause is such an act of courage. It requires you to go against your instincts, to resist the pull of your emotions and stand firm in your calm. This is why the Stoics compared the practice of philosophy to training for a fight. Epictetus said, "The boy has fallen. Get up," says the trainer, "and wrestle again until you are strong." Each time you pause, you are wrestling with your impulses, and every time you succeed, you grow stronger. The beauty of the pause is that it gives you clarity. Without it, you're like a person walking through a storm, unable to see more than a few feet ahead. But when you pause, it's as if the clouds part for a moment, and you can see the situation for what it truly is. Is this really a battle worth fighting? Is this insult, this inconvenience, this provocation worth sacrificing your peace? Most of the time, the answer is no. And even when the answer is yes, when action is truly required, the pause allows you to act with purpose rather than rage. Consider the story of Cato the Younger, a Stoic who stood as an unshakable symbol of integrity and self-control. In one famous incident, Cato was slapped across the face. Most people would have retaliated immediately, but Cato paused. Instead of striking back, he simply asked, "Should I let a fool decide my actions?" This wasn't weakness, it was strength of the highest order. Cato understood that his reaction was his choice, and he refused to hand that choice over to someone else. The pause is not an act of passivity, it is an act of supreme power, the power to remain unshaken in the face of provocation. Let's bring this closer to your daily life. Imagine you're at work, and a colleague criticizes your idea in a meeting. The initial wave of anger or defensiveness might rise quickly, urging you to respond sharply or dismissively. But if you pause, you have the opportunity to think, is this criticism valid? If it is, how can I use it to improve? And if it isn't, why should it bother me? In those few seconds, you shift from reacting emotionally to responding rationally. This doesn't just protect your peace, it also earns you respect. People admire those who remain composed under pressure, who respond with wisdom rather than impulsiveness. The challenge, of course, is making the pause a habit. It's easy to lose sight of it in the heat of the moment, to let your emotions take over before you even realize what's happening. That's why the Stoics emphasize preparation. Marcus Aurelius began each day by reminding himself, "Today, you will meet ungrateful, arrogant, deceitful people, but none of these can hurt you." By anticipating challenges, he trained himself to remain calm when they arose. You can do the same. Start small. The next time something irritates you, a long line, a rude comment, a frustrating email, pause, breathe, count to 3 if you need to. Remind yourself that your calm is more valuable than any argument. The real power of the pause is that it reconnects you with your greater purpose. As Stoics, our goal is not to be ruled by fleeting emotions, but to live with reason, integrity, and excellence. Every time you pause, you are stepping closer to that ideal. You're proving to yourself that you are not a slave to your impulses, that you have the strength to choose your response. And over time, this practice transforms you. You become the kind of person who is unshakable, who remains calm in the face of storms, who embodies the virtues of wisdom, courage, and self-control. Imagine what your life could look like if you mastered this skill. Arguments would no longer escalate into regrets. Insults would no longer wound your pride. Frustrations would no longer consume your energy. Instead, you would move through life with a sense of peace and purpose, unshaken by the chaos around you. This is not just a philosophical ideal. It's a practical way of living, one that you can begin today. So the next time you feel the pull of anger or frustration, remember this: the pause is your ally. It's a simple act, but it holds the power to change everything. In that moment of stillness, you reclaim your freedom. You remind yourself that you are not defined by what happens to you, but by how you choose to respond. Comment pause if you're ready to start using this technique. Because mastering the pause is not just about controlling your emotions, it's about mastering your life. Stay with me, because what comes next will show you how to make emotional resilience your default state, not just in moments of pause, but in every aspect of your daily existence. You're already on the path to becoming unshakable. Let's keep going. Building inner strength. Anger doesn't arise in a vacuum. It thrives in minds untrained to resist it. That's why the Stoics emphasize building inner strength through daily practice. Marcus Aurelius would reflect each morning, preparing himself for the challenges ahead. He'd say, "Today, you will meet ungrateful, arrogant, deceitful people. But none of these can hurt you, for you have the power to decide how you will respond." Journaling is a great way to start. Reflect on moments when you lost your temper. What could you have done differently? What virtues, patience, understanding, self-control can you work on cultivating? Think of these moments as strength training for your mind. Every challenge is an opportunity to grow stronger. Comment strength if you're ready to commit to daily growth. And stay with me. The final section will show you how to respond to life's provocations with wisdom and dignity. How do you respond when someone insults or disrespects you? Do you react with anger or with calm wisdom? The answer to this question could define your relationships and your peace. The final piece of this puzzle is coming up next. Responding with wisdom. Inner strength is not a shield that suddenly appears when life tests you. It's not something you stumble upon in moments of crisis. Inner strength is a fortress you build brick by brick through small, deliberate acts of preparation and practice. It's the product of choosing, day after day, to master your reactions, to face your challenges, and to strengthen your character. The Stoics understood this deeply. They saw inner strength as a key to a life of freedom, not freedom from difficulties, but freedom from being ruled by them. Anger, frustration, and anxiety don't arise in a vacuum. They find fertile ground in an untrained mind. And so the work begins not when the storm comes, but long before, in the quiet moments of reflection and growth. Marcus Aurelius, burdened by the immense responsibility of leading an empire, understood the importance of preparing for life's challenges. Each morning, he would sit and remind himself, "Today, you will meet ungrateful, arrogant, deceitful people. But none of these can hurt you, for you have the power to decide how you will respond." These words, simple yet profound, reveal a truth we often overlook. Life will inevitably bring difficult people and situations, but they cannot harm us unless we allow them to. Marcus's daily reflection was not an act of pessimism. It was a declaration of strength. He anticipated the trials he would face and armed himself with the mindset to endure them. This practice of preparation is something we can all adopt. Think about the frustrations you encounter in your daily life. The colleague who undermines you, the stranger who cuts you off in traffic, the loved one who snaps at you after a long day. These moments can feel like attacks, unexpected and unfair. But are they truly unexpected? If we step back and reflect, we know that life will always bring its share of difficulties. People will act selfishly. Plans will go awry. Challenges will arise. The key is not to avoid these challenges, but to meet them with resilience. This is why inner strength must be built daily, not in reaction to the storms of life, but in preparation for them. One of the most powerful tools for building inner strength is reflection. The Stoics were great advocates of journaling, not as a mere record of events, but as a tool for self-examination. Seneca, in particular, wrote about the importance of ending each day with a kind of personal audit. He would ask himself, "What have I done today? What did I do wrong? What could I have done better?" This practice isn't about self-criticism. It's about self-awareness. It's about looking honestly at your actions and learning from them. Did you lose your temper? Why? What could you have done differently? What virtue, patience, understanding, self-control might have helped you respond more wisely? By reflecting on these questions, you begin to see patterns in your behavior, and with that awareness comes the power to change. Journaling is not just about looking back. It's also about looking forward. It's an opportunity to set intentions for the day ahead. What kind of person do you want to be? How do you want to respond to the inevitable challenges that will come your way? Imagine starting each day, as Marcus Aurelius did, by reminding yourself, "Today, I will encounter difficulties, but I will not let them shake me. I will meet them with patience and courage." This simple act of preparation can transform the way you approach your day. It's like strengthening the foundation of a building. When the storm comes, you will stand firm. But let's not romanticize this process. Building inner strength is hard work. It requires discipline, consistency, and a willingness to confront your own weaknesses. It's far easier to blame the world for your frustrations than to take responsibility for your reactions. But the Stoics remind us that true strength comes from within. Epictetus wrote, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Freedom, in the Stoic sense, is not about avoiding difficulties. It's about mastering your mind so that no difficulty can rule you. This is why the work of building inner strength is so essential. It is the foundation of a life lived with peace and purpose. Think about your own life. How many times have you allowed someone else's actions to dictate your emotions? Perhaps a stranger's rudeness ruined your mood, or a friend's thoughtlessness left you feeling hurt and angry. In those moments, it's easy to feel powerless, as if you're at the mercy of the world around you. But the truth is, your emotions are your own. No one can make you angry or upset without your consent. Building inner strength means reclaiming that power. It means saying, "I will not let the actions of others control me. I will choose how I respond." Anger is not strength. It's weakness disguised as power. But by mastering your emotions, reframing your triggers, pausing before reacting, building inner strength, and responding with wisdom, you can transform anger into your greatest teacher. If you're ready to live unbothered, unshaken, and in control, like this video, subscribe, share it with someone who needs it, and comment "I am Stoic." Together, we can build a world where no one has the power to disturb our peace. Stay strong, fellow Stoic.